All right, so really quickly, remember contextualization is setting the stage for your thesis. It's like the season one recap, right? Before you watch season two to get you ready to binge watch, whatever show you're binge watching right now. Um, but the most important thing is that you have to connect your ideas to your prompt. So it's what's going on, before the event in the prompt that's led up to it. It could also be what's something that's going on in other parts of the world that are connecting to the prompt. That could also be contextualization. So it could be before, during, right? Or even immediately afterwards, could also be contextualization. So here's my graphic organizer for you guys. Your prompt goes in the middle. The outside spokes are your major developments, either before, during, or after the prompt. But then the inside line right here, the connection, is how it connects to the prompt. And this is where kids mess up the most. They list a major pattern, but they don't explain how it connects to the prompt. So my first development I have for you guys is industrialization. It connects to the prompt because that created a high demand for raw materials for those factories to manufacture, right? So examples of those raw materials would be palm oil, um, found in Central and Southern Africa, that's then manufactured specifically in the early 1900s into soaps. And now it's used in our conditioners and our shampoos and oils, and it's destroying the rainforest. But originally, right, it's extracted for its first major manufactured use for soaps and becomes hugely profitable. Another raw material, for example, would be how Coach Tope talked about rubber in the Congo with King Leopold. And at the turn in the mid 1800s, rubber was being manufactured for bicycle tires. And then at the turn of the century in early 1900s, it becomes more important for automobiles in the late 1800s, and then military mechanized machinery in the early 1900s for example, Caterpillar tracks for tanks. So those are examples of raw materials for high demand. Your job now is to try and think of other global connections. So pause the video here and try and brainstorm with your group and see if you can come up with a major development and its connection on your own. If you get stuck after a few minutes, then click play and I'll give you some hints for what other major developments could be. But first, try to brainstorm on your own. Hit pause now. All right, if you're absolutely stuck, I'm going to come in and click edit on my drawing. In order to add a development, I'm going to click on text box. And let's say I'm like, oh yeah, the Berlin conference that I learned about with Coach Tope. That's a major development that went on during this time period. So then I would want to come here, and this is where I would need you guys to type and explain how the Berlin conference would have created resistance to imperialism. So look back at your notes. I'm not going to tell you the answer. If you only need 2 major developments to write a contextualization sentence, but if you wanted to safeguard yourself or it just came really naturally to you, then you could try to think of a third. So for example, remember that our colonies in the Americas have already achieved independence. So how would that have created, right, resistance to imperialism in Africa? Like, how does this connect to Europe now needing essentially more colonies in Africa because they've industrialized? How does that impact that? And that's what you'd want to type in your connection. So those are some quick ideas. Now your job is to finalize your connections if you haven't already, and then type your contextualization 2 sentences into your box below using the model that's in the box.